Did your stepdad get it right? Today we're trying a 1967 Gibson Canadian whiskey beside a 2023 Gibson Canadian whiskey. And I got John, the whiskey neighbor here. John, how you doing?
Pretty good, James. Thanks for letting me join you here. And I'm crazy interested in this, like 55-year-old whiskey. I know it's only a 12-year-old whiskey, but it's been on the shelf for a long time.
Yeah. You'd think I found it in the bottle of a dusty liquor store or something. This was a gift from a friend. We're gonna open these bottles and let them air out for a minute. I'm excited to try these.
Me too. We're gonna nose the older one first?
Yeah, let's nose the older one.
Okay. Well, this is a bit better than the last dusty bottle that we tried together. For me, it's better integrated. I've got a little bit of fruit, some sweetness going on, but it's got that classic Canadian sugars.
Yeah.
That I often say maple syrup just because it resonates as a Canadian sweetness. But it's got some of that high sweetness, but some mellow apple fruits in there.
Yeah, the first thing I get immediately off the nose is caramel. It's just like just caramel toffee like my granddad would have had.
Sure.
And then get into it a little more, start pulling out those fruity notes. It's really hard. With the fruit, like there might be like a little bit of marzipan in there or something, but it's fairly neutral. It's fairly neutral.
Right on.
Want to move on to the 2023 bottling of Gibson's
I think we
12-year-old?
should. So we just cracked this open. This is current off the shelf and still 40%.
Yep.
Well, I would resonate with what you were getting on the older one in terms of caramel, but it's not, to me, it's not as rich as the nose on the 67.
I'm actually getting a little more of what I would describe as grain notes, whereas the 67 was, the spirit itself was quite neutral with a lot of influence on top of it. This I would describe a little more of the, I don't want to say alcohol flavor, but like the grain influence.
Yeah, for me, I came back just quickly, hit the 67 again, and I got like some butter in with that maple syrup sweetness. Like it is, to me, a little bit richer than the current release.
Yeah, interesting. Certainly not in a bad way, but the grain comes across a little more. There's a wet note in there, not exactly like a wet cardboard, but the grain comes across as maybe a little more dusty in that way.
I can resonate with the grain note for sure. I also wouldn't go as far as wet cardboard, but it's just not as rich. It's thinner. It's still sweet. It's not offensive necessarily, but it's not pulling me in.
No fruits like the other one.
No. Should we
a little less caramel as well.
Give her a taste?
Yeah. Let's taste them both.
All right. Starting with the old one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That is exactly like those little cubes of
unwrapped caramels that you have to unwrap.
Like the clear cubes as well.
I was going to say Werther's Originals, but you're closer.
Like the soft ones.
Oh yeah, totally.
Holy cow!
As a child, I used to unwrap, and then we dipped apples in them. That was awesome. But
yeah, wow.
I remember
with the fruity note. I can see the caramel apple thing coming through.
Yeah. Should we go to the new one?
New one.
Okay. Cheers. You know what? I would say these are still related. I can still get some of those caramel notes or toffee notes, but it up front, like in my first part of the palate, it just doesn't hold together. On the back, I'm getting a little bit of spicing coming through, like just that early finish, that kind of stuff. I'm getting a little more wood spice, and I'm okay. We got some character, but just up front, light vanillas, light toffees, really no fruit to speak of, and just not that kind of richness butter note that I was getting in the older one.
I know what you mean. There's I'd say it's a little bit lighter, but a little bit thinner, and it finishes a little bit hotter as well, which might be sort of it's thinner because maybe there's less residual sugars or something in there.
Could be.
Less mouthfeel than the 67.
I would absolutely agree with that.
But that
less mouthfeel.
Goes hand in hand with not as sweet as well.
Yeah. And the heat could be just that, just a bit of alcohol bloom heat kind of thing, or if I'm being generous, a little bit of spicy kick to it.
Yeah, not a tremendous amount of pepper or vegetal notes. Like, it doesn't strike you as like a rye,
No, and I'm just gonna echo that. It feels a little bit thin, a little bit light, and missing some of that character, almost like an artificial sugar. I hate to say it like that, but that lack of of a little bit more depth. This older Gibson, I'm liking. The newer one, doesn't really hold up for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say my favorite is the older one as well. It's I don't mind it by itself. That apple note, like I said in another video, I'm in this deep fruity whiskey hole, and I definitely lean towards the 67 Gibson.
Well, side by side like this, and a privilege for inviting me here. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I would definitely say that Dad had it right. If he was drinking Gibson back in the day in '67,
Yeah,
it's not a bad whiskey.
not a bad whiskey. There we go.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us. Cheers.